Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My Karen girlfriend refused to pick up my kids from school when I was at work keeping a roof over our heads. After that, you want me to make a patient stay late so you can skip work during the snow? Okay, if you insist. And after that, my best friend won't stop hanging out with my wife. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen has to pick up her own kids from school. I would if I had any, but you won't give them to me, Reddit boy. Why? So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My Karen girlfriend refused to pick up my kids from school when I was at work keeping a roof over our heads. I, 36 male, have been with my girlfriend, who's 32, for 2 years. I have 2 boys who are 13 and 9 from my previous relationship. Their mom is not in the picture. I work full-time and my girlfriend used to stay home and take care of everything else. I still help out here and there. Yet she would complain about the kids causing constant messes, not receiving proper discipline, accidents like breaking a vase, and the list goes on. She complained that she is more of a parent than I am, which isn't true since I provide an income. Yet she decided that she wanted to go back to work and started looking. She found a potential job and her interview was yesterday. I called her to remind her to pick up the kids from school since she's responsible for that, but she said that she was about to start her interview and told me to go get them. I was stunned. I told her I couldn't because I was at work. She said I could take a break, but I refused because this would have affected my job. I asked if she'd take 10 minutes to quickly go pick them up, but she refused. We ended up getting into an argument and me telling her she should have figured something out beforehand. She blew up saying that I'm the parent and that she was tired of being at my beck and call all the time. The kids ended up being picked up by my friend 40 minutes later, which made them upset. At home, I got into a huge argument with my girlfriend, calling her selfish for doing this to the kids and ditching them like that. She said that she had an important interview and that I, as the parent, could have figured something else out instead of expecting her to drop what she was doing and pick the kids up. She called me a jerk, then she went to stay with her mom. You're the jerk. She had something going on that was important for her and her future, and they're your kids. She's right. She's more of a parent than you are, because providing an income isn't the same as actually parenting. You're basically letting her do a 24/7 job to avoid taking responsibility yourself. You're the jerk. Wow, she had a job interview. You already have a job, and they are your kids. Of course you should have taken a break from your job, or you should have arranged something else. Your girlfriend was not available that day, and no wonder she's getting a job if you refuse to do more than help out here and there and hold over her head that you are more of a parent than her because you provide an income. Once she gets the job, you'll probably need to do 50% of the household tasks and 100% of the parenting. You're just trying to sabotage her to prevent that from happening. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. You want me to make a patient stay late so you can skip work during the snow? Okay, if you insist. Once upon a time, I worked in a research hospital coordinating drug studies. This one's gonna go against the grain of some of the stories here. When you work in healthcare, following the written laws and rules to the letter is of the utmost importance. We run into trouble when people begin inventing their own rules and playing by them. The hardest part of my job was convincing other departments to also do their jobs. And sometimes it was like pulling teeth, asking people to perform their duties at even a basic level. Ask a nurse to draw a basic 4-tube blood kit, you get an eye roll. Ask the pharmacy to stay 5 minutes past the end of the workday? Nope, they couldn't do that. They were out at 4:30. That second scenario is the important one for the purpose of this story. That department refuses to stay late. I could understand why they'd feel that way and strive to maintain as steady a schedule as possible. But in the world of sick and dying people, sometimes things come up. Mind you, I regularly had to stay an hour or 2 past the end of my shift to take care of problems in data entry. We could get overtime pay or flex our schedules pretty easily, at least in my department. This hospital was in a very snowy metropolitan area, and one time years ago, we were projected to get a massive blizzard. Every one of us, the nurses, the physicians, the pharmacists, and the coordinators, were essential employees, or whatever they called it before lockdown popularized the term, and had to come in regardless of the weather. So every one of us should have been planning to be there the next day, even if the weather was awful. We had to call in sick if we missed work for weather reasons. The afternoon before the storm was due to begin, we had a patient in clinic. Typically, patients on this particular research study got a doctor's appointment and then treatment immediately after. However, this individual had a job that made him prefer getting his clinic visit done in the afternoon and his treatment early the next morning. It was unusual, but it wasn't hard to accommodate him. While most of us had accepted our fate of driving in the snow the next morning, the investigational drug department was especially not too excited about the prospect of having to come in during the blizzard. So at 3:30, an hour before the pharmacy closes, they send me a Slack message and ask us what the possibility of doing this patient's treatment today might be, so they don't have to come in for it tomorrow. Really? You're asking us this now? This was on your docket all day. Anyway, I begrudgingly went to find the patient in the waiting room and ask. He wasn't thrilled, but says that he'll do it if he has to. I let the pharmacy know. Then they asked me what the status of the patient was. Clinic was running behind, as usual, and we hadn't cleared the patient for treatment yet. The investigational pharmacy needed at least 20 minutes to prep the drugs needed, so they told us we had till 4 p.m. to get them the signed order. The process for getting a drug order filled involved getting a signed order from a doctor after a patient has been cleared to get it, walking it outside across the street to the pharmacy, handing the signed prescription to a pharmacist, waiting for it, walking it back to the patient in the first building. This was absolutely not going to happen in less than 12 minutes. At 4:01, pharmacy sent me a very rude Slack message indicating that I'd basically missed my window to get the patient in today, and I should do a better job next time. As a coordinator, you got blamed for absolutely everything, even if it was the fault of the doctor who was bad at time management. Their message said something along the lines of, "If you don't come up and give a pharmacist the order by 4:05, there's nothing we can do for your patient. In the future, you should get the order signed and over to us ahead of time so we can prep it." Ahead of time, in this case, meant that a patient would have been prescribed a drug that wasn't even cleared by a doctor to receive it. In my training, the pharmacy director told us we were never ever supposed to do this. It was a humongous no-no and would be grounds for a massive lawsuit if anything went wrong. You absolutely don't prep a drug unless the patient receiving it is cleared for treatment by a physician. I really liked the pharmacy director, and I messaged her regularly with questions about meds patients might be considering while on study. But she wasn't super involved in the day-to-day of the pharmacy workers and tended to focus on bigger picture tasks. Hence why her employees were inventing their own rules and demands. So I'm supposed to get this patient in today, right now, eh? All right, if you insist. So I got the order signed by the physician ahead of seeing the patient. They didn't really give a hoot. Next step, in the words of the person who messaged me, was to take it to a pharmacist, eh? You said I had to take it to a pharmacist by 4:05, right? What if, instead of walking it directly to the pharmacy, I took it directly to the pharmacy director? She was still a pharmacist and could do everything the folks in the investigational drug dispensary could do. I told her that we hadn't cleared this patient, but I had been urged by pharmacy to dispense the drug anyhow, so that the patient wouldn't have to come in tomorrow for their treatment. She looked puzzled and asked if the patient rescheduled while in clinic. I told her no. This was at the request of the pharmacy staff, so they wouldn't have to come in during a snowstorm. I showed her the message her employee had sent me. Pharmacy director was unhappy with this and said someone would just have to stay late if this was the plan. I referred her to the Slack message that said I had missed my window because they didn't plan to stay late. Director was livid and told me that she personally was going to stay late to make sure this went through. We went to the pharmacy from her office and she intended to scold this employee, but of course, everyone was gone. So the two of us went and got the meds at 4:35 and I got it back to the patient. I got a call from him a week later indicating that he actually preferred getting Thursday afternoon treatment instead of having it on Friday morning and wanted to keep that schedule going forward. I relayed this to the head of the pharmacy. I expressed uncertainty with how we had handled this and she said she'd get back with me. We all got an email a few days later saying that the investigational drug department would now be staying open until 5:30 and one person would be staying late every day, rotating every day, so that someone could cover late orders. But I knew she only had 3 pharmacists and they were all salaried, not hourly, which meant some of them would be covering more than 1 late hour a week. I went to get this patient's next dose a few weeks later at about 4:45. The same woman who had asked me to break the rules was working. I asked her how she was doing and she told me she was having to work 3 4:30 to 5:30s a week. presumably because she tried to act unethically a few weeks prior. She handed me the pill bottle and slammed the window in my face. And to think, if the pharmacists would have just shut up and done their jobs like they were supposed to and come in during the snowstorm, they'd still be able to leave at 4:30 every day. If you work in healthcare or health research, don't make your own rules, kids. My best friend won't stop hanging out with my wife. I'm 29, male. My wife is 30, female. And my best friend Cyan is 25, male. We do not see eye to eye. Some backstory. My wife and I moved for my new job. Cyan was the cousin of a high school friend, so I was thrilled to know someone. We quickly became best friends, closer than brothers. During lockdown, our job was in person versus my wife working from home. Cyan is a very kind person. I think my wife hated everything about him. She thought he was too goofy and hated how he teased her. My wife takes things seriously, and she's a romantic, so things like date nights are a big deal to her. She hated when Cyan hung out, even when I invited him. A few months ago, I had a 4-month project across the world. I needed the promotion. My wife ended up needing surgery, and she, unlike me, didn't make close friends here. Her friends and family were too far. She couldn't do normal things post-surgery and wanted me to come back. I complained to Cyan, and he suggested that he pop on over to help her. He ended up doing a lot more, and my wife heavily relied on his kindness. When I came back, it was like my wife flipped her switch. Things that were immature became playful. She constantly fell for his fish for compliments, and it was like Cyan could do no wrong. Cyan still hung out, but it was like he couldn't snap out of caretaker mode. The two of them are practically joined at the hip. When I went to work, my wife packed Cyan a lunch too, and his is a lot better than hers or mine. Cyan needs this or that or whatever. She showers him with attention. My wife can be overbearing like that. At a small party, I came with my wife, and she immediately zoomed to Cyan and monopolized all his time. After he went to the bathroom, which was basically the only time she left him alone, I pulled him aside and told him I knew my wife was clingy and it was okay if he kept boundaries. He wasn't obliged to hang around my wife. I said it kindly. He turned red, told me I was a jerk, and stormed away. He left without saying goodbye to anybody but my wife. Am I the jerk? I told some mutual friends about this, and most of them are on my side. They said Cyan didn't know how to stand up for himself. He was embarrassed. Cyan is still upset. You're the jerk. You're jealous of them spending time together because you enjoyed neglecting your wife for your friend, and now he's less available. You're mad that the thing you wanted to happen, them getting along, has happened. And you're upset that at your suggestion, he was there for her and supported her when you didn't. I don't know, and neither do you, whether your wife is trying to prove a point about how to be caring and supportive because you weren't towards her, whether they had an affair, or whether you're just someone who likes to be in control all the time. But it doesn't really matter. This is a situation that you set up entirely for yourself, and they have a relationship that you promoted and indeed forced by pushing them together while you were away, and your wife was in serious need of help. She had no choice over who could help her. You made it. You're a jerk for whining about it and trying to split their new bond apart for your own needs. It kind of sounds like both you and your wife are in love with Cyan. In any case, it seems that you are unhappy regardless of the friendship or lack thereof that your wife and Cyan have, and you also seem keen to fault your wife whatever she does. I think you're the jerk. This story has a lot of U-turns, but ultimately, you seem to be upset because somebody, I'm not sure who to be honest, is not giving you enough attention, which is only a jerk move because when your wife was in the exact same position, you imply she was being unreasonable, which sort of makes you unreasonable by your own definition. You're the jerk for what the other people said, but also this. I know my wife is clingy. He wasn't obliged to hang out with her. Then in the comments you say, she'll feel hurt that he's too awkward to say he doesn't want to be friends. You think he doesn't actually like her, or even that he has no reason to like her. You've decided that he's just tolerating her and she's lavishing care on someone who's pretending to like it. You're calling him a liar. You're calling her unlikable. And you brought in others at a work party to make fun of their friendship. She sobbed for you to come home and take care of her. You prioritized a project and a promotion. He was there for her, above and beyond what you thought she needed, and still does things with her that you wouldn't dream of, like letting her put makeup on him. You're jealous and selfish. You're going to lose both of them if you don't treat them with love, respect, and appreciation. But hey, At least you'll have your promotion. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife and Cyan? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for how I responded to my dad and stepmom trying to force us to watch their wedding video? I'm 14, female, and my brother is 10. Our dad has been with Carol for close to 2 years, and they got married in early November. Carol hates us, especially me. She calls me a problem child and is always picking on me, being rude to me. She constantly compares us to her daughters, constantly picks fights, and tries to parent my brother and I. She yells and calls us names when we have to go over. If one of her daughters does something to us, like takes our stuff, she just brushes it off and laughs, and our dad just lets it happen. We have no choice but to see him 4 times a month because of he and our mom's court agreement. But we hate it there, and we hate Carol. So we didn't go to their wedding, even though Dad was super upset and fought with us about it for 2 months after we told him that we weren't going. So we skipped the wedding. Last Sunday, he picked us up like usual and drove us to his house. I noticed right away they were in a better mood and that they have been lately. Carol was blabbing at us about their honeymoon in Florida. When we got to the house, Dad announced they had something to show us and for us to go sit in the living room while he got it. Me and my brother went and sat down, but we both had a bad feeling. The girls were nowhere around, which was weird. Carol came to sit on the other couch and she was just staring at us, looking like she'd won something. And my dad comes in with a Blu-ray disc and puts it into the player and sits with Carol. And Carol says in this happy voice, "This is since the 2 of you missed it. You can now see what you missed." It started playing and we realized it was a video of their wedding. A few seconds in, it was edited to a clip of them saying "I do" and kissing. My brother saw this and started to cry, and I just got so mad. We hate Carol, and that's why we didn't go in the first place. She wasn't going to force us to look at it now. So I grabbed my brother's hand and pulled him off the couch and said that we weren't going to watch this. Carol sneered and said we had no choice. I told her she'd never be in charge of us, no matter how much she wished she was, and I told my dad we were leaving. I admit I shouted at this part. She told me to stop being a little jerk, and I shouted back that she's a big fat jerk who should know better. Rude, I know. She shouted at my dad, "Are you just gonna let her talk to me like that?" And Dad just kind of laughed and said that he wasn't dealing with this and went to his room and locked the door. I took my brother to go get his stuff on, grabbed my bag and left, with Carol screaming at me most of the time. I don't know most of what she was saying. It was too loud and screamy. I started walking with my brother down the side of the road and called my mom on my cell to come get us. We walked about 10 minutes before she met us on the road. Dad is mad at me, Carol is mad, but I don't care. Mom is upset only because she thinks I shouldn't have walked my brother along the road. If I'm the jerk, it's alright. Edit to add, a commenter here told me I was a bad kid who was exaggerating Carol's rudeness, so I'll say here to read my comments so you can see the other things that Carol does. Not the jerk. Carol treats you poorly, and your father does nothing to protect you from that. And it's understandable that you would have an outburst like this. You're young, and it's hard to deal with stuff like this when no one takes you seriously. All in all, I don't think you handled it that poorly. If you haven't already, I'd recommend sitting down with your mother and brother and explaining to them why you both dislike going to your dad's. You're getting to an age where the courts may actually take your opinion into consideration for where you spend your time. Good luck, and I hope it all works out for you. Not the jerk. Stepmom is completely clueless if she thinks that the 2 of you wanted to watch their wedding video, and particularly if she thought that you would think it was so cool and then regret having skipped it. Not the jerk. Could you have handled it better? Sure, but I don't blame you for being upset, especially after your brother started crying. Name-calling happens sometimes, but that's the only jerk behavior from you I see, and given her treatment of you, it's understandable that you'd snap. Your dad sounds like a jerk, and I hope you guys are able to change your visitation or something. You shouldn't have to deal with your stepfamily treating you like this, but it's even worse when a parent ignores that treatment. I'm glad your mom was only concerned with your safety and supports you guys. Karen, eager to have employee punished, mistakes me for manager. It had been a long week and a long day at work, so I decided to stop at my favorite store with the Red Bullseye for some decent, moderately priced Cabernet and some bubble bath stuff. Your girl likes to be bougie on a budget. I'm sure you all know where this story is going, given the sub we're on. A Karen, though not your typical Karen look, she had long hair and didn't seem like she was even 40 yet, Definitely not old enough for the entitlement and dementia that is Karen. As calmly as she could, to seem professional I guess, stormed up to me. She began lamenting how the teen employee would not get the things for her. They don't have the thing apparently, and he needed to be disciplined. Cut his pay, cut his hours, fire him. He has zero work ethic. It was starting to hurt my ears. The poor kid wasn't far off and came up because he realized that I'm not employed by Bullseye. I want him fired. I can't do that, ma'am, and if I could, I wouldn't. What do you mean you can't? Aren't you a manager here? No. But you have a name tag. It even says manager on it. Yes, it says property manager for the company that I work for. So, you're still a manager, right? I was fed up here. Ma'am, what does the logo on my tag say? Is there a little bullseye? Am I wearing red or whatever color managers wear here? But you're a manager. You have to help me. You have to punish him. Now I'm fed up, just baffled. I just want to get my bubbles, my Cabernet, and go get in my giant tub and enjoy myself. Why are people like this? I'm beginning to believe all the tales and myths of the terrible Karen. I walk past her carefully, not to brush against her at all so she can't claim assault. Her breath smells like egg and cigarettes. Once past her, I speed up and grab whatever booze and bubbles are on display so I can get to the checkout. Oh no, she's following me. Maybe if she were 60 or so, she would have given up. I luckily make it through the checkout with my 2 things bagged and have my receipt. My social anxiety tells me that people think I'm a thief because I'm running. I'm safe in my car. I don't see her anywhere. I drive home. As I'm finally in my tub, relaxing, eyes closed, turning into a human lobster, I see her. When will I escape? I will forever know that Karen is real. She's not a mythological beast. She's an actual living monster. Edit. To everyone saying I should have or could have fired the kid, you overestimate my power and you underestimate my anxiety. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay my cousin's hospital bill? A few years ago, I, 32 female, took over my mom's portion of the family annual Thanksgiving host rotation. It's a fun event because I get to see family I generally don't for the rest of the year, and I love hosting. It's a semi-potluck, and I make a point of asking about allergies and food preferences. This year, my cousin, who's 36, male, told me he was joining with his new wife. They got married in July, and her daughter, who's around 8. Cousin was added to the group chat and didn't say anything about allergies or preferences when asked. Fast forward to Thanksgiving. One of the desserts I made was peanut butter cookies. My family and I love them. Cousin's stepdaughter ate one and is allergic to peanuts. I had no idea and would never have made them if I had known. Husband and I took them to a standalone ER that was about 5 minutes from the house. We stayed with them for some time until she was transferred to the local hospital where she stayed overnight. She ended up being fine. Last week, I got a text from my cousin with a picture of the hospital bill. He wanted to know how I wanted to handle it. I called, and he and his wife expect us to pay the bill. I told him we weren't going to do that. I reminded him that he had told me nobody had allergies, and hubby and I did pay the copay at the ER, $500, because we felt bad. We had an argument, and now the family is involved. They're mostly on my side, but some are getting into me for having anything peanut related, because everybody has peanut allergies nowadays. The bill is about $6,000. We don't have it. The $500 we paid came out of our Christmas budget. I feel bad his stepdaughter got sick. Ultimately though, it's their responsibility to handle things like this. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay? Update. Showed the bill to a friend who helped me understand that this is the total bill, not what is owed privately. Also, I called Uncle, cousin's dad. Uncle wasn't at the event and has been rather silent in this matter. I learned that cousin hasn't shared that A, nobody shared allergy issues, and B, that we paid the initial copay. Uncle is now upset. I've been told not to worry my pretty little head and he will have a chat with his son. Not the jerk. Your cousin should take full responsibility for his stepdaughter's medical bill for being negligent by not mentioning about her allergies. You are not responsible for this incident. Not the jerk. You made a point of asking and they said nothing. Then let stepdaughter eat not just something that randomly contained peanuts, but a peanut butter cookie without bothering to check. They sound like lousy parents and step-parents, to be honest. My husband has a nut allergy, and I check and double-check food all the time when I shop or when we go out to eat. I make a point of reminding friends and relatives when we visit, etc. not the jerk. As the parent of a kid with peanut allergies, you can't expect the world to pay attention to this for you. Ultimately, it's going to be the kid and the parent's responsibility. Peanut allergies are common, but you can't expect the world to just give up peanuts. My 5-year-old knows how to ask if foods have peanuts before eating. We've also been showing up to parties with a dessert in hand for our kid because 99 times out of the 100, the desserts or treats are not peanut safe. Very rarely does someone go out of their way to be peanut safe without being told in advance. For the 8-year-old to not ask or know, or the parents to not mention it or inquire, is a bit puzzling. Bad situation overall, but I wouldn't hold you responsible if this was my kid. It wasn't your responsibility, and you did ask. Manager sarcastically asked if I needed to go home mid-shift. I called his bluff and said yes and punched out and left. Just another crazy night in our industry. But I'm now sitting on my couch, drinking hot chocolate in my PJs. I was supposed to be in a dirty uniform shirt, holding down Section 2 until at least midnight. This is way better. Crap was falling apart hard when the manager sarcastically asked me if I needed to go home, saying he doesn't need this crap right now and that he'd cover my section. Man, I know he wasn't expecting what came next. I said, okay, and took my apron off right in front of all of my guests. I was knee-deep on my third turn in a full 9-table section and had just gotten word that some entrees were run to the wrong table. I said, let me know when I can punch out, and left my screen open so he could transfer checks to himself. It doesn't matter what happened that caused this. It's been a long time coming, and I'm writing my resignation letter as we speak. But it sure felt great putting my coat on and punching out, just as the kitchen was begging the manager to please give them 10 minutes on Expo. And a server was complaining that her drinks were taking 20 minutes, and my entire section's worth of drinks and food orders were still written in my book and not rung in. I left a pile of scrap paper at the computer terminal for him to ring in everybody's orders. I'm pretty good about writing things down and crossing them off when they get rung in. But even still, if someone handed me the crap pile I handed him, I'd cry. My handwriting sucks, and I write all over the page like a lunatic. Not to mention the misdelivered entree debacle that now needed his immediate attention and the poor kitchen and bar that were dying for his attention. I highly doubt he's having a better night now that he's down a server suddenly on a packed Friday night. But like he said, he doesn't need this crap, so I'm about to stream A Christmas Story because my cats haven't seen it yet. I hope he remembers to bleach the stairs as part of his closing side work tonight. How much simpler would it have been if he had just asked if you needed a hand? Dug his own grave, but it sounds like it was already quite deep. OP. He did ask a million times, and in his defense, he's very hands-on, and I ask him all the time to do things for me. He's a great manager in that respect, actually. Tonight, he kept asking if I needed anything, and what I actually needed for him to do was to tell the new training manager to leave me alone. She's been micromanaging me over the last few weeks, and I've had it with her. She was actually getting in my way tonight, she was so on top of me. I'd turn to move fast, and suddenly I'd smack right into her, and she'd be saying something stupid like, "Make sure you offer table 13 to-go bags." So anytime the real manager asked what I needed tonight, I kept saying things like, "I'm fine, I just need a little trust tonight that I can do this job." Or, "I literally just need to get to table 12, like just get there physically, without a manager in my path holding water bottles out at me to go fill them ASAP. Can you maybe fill waters for the jerk manager so I can get to my tables since she thinks it's the only priority around here?" In his defense, I was passive-aggressive and crappy. In my defense, him and I have always talked to each other this way, kinda like, "You know what I'm saying, don't make me say the quiet part out loud." And I've approached him about this manager. He knows what I was saying. So yeah, both our faults tonight. I'll own half of it. I finally kicked my Karen daughter out of the house. My daughter recently told me and my wife that she's pregnant, and apparently she's been hiding it for 3 months. The boyfriend is a scumbag who I thought she left after I gave her an ultimatum to either leave him or leave my house, to which she chose the latter, or at least I thought she did. She started sobbing and telling us how sorry she was and that it was just a big mistake. I told her the only way she can stay in our house is if she gave the baby up for adoption, because we won't allow it to ruin her life. She just kept pleading to us that she'll take care of it, but I had a very hard time believing her after I just found out she's been lying to me for months and going behind my back to see her boyfriend. My daughter refused to give her baby up, to which I decided to kick her out of my house, and now she's staying with a friend for I don't know how long. My wife has been incredibly sad and is now telling me what I did was wrong. It wasn't an easy decision for me to make, but I couldn't allow her to walk away without any consequences. At her age, I was already taking care of myself, so I don't look at it the same way others might. Is it really wrong for me to kick my adult daughter out of my house after she lied to me? I'm willing to see if I've taken things too far. You're the jerk. You know forbidding your daughter from seeing her boyfriend is just going to make him more desirable, right? And how is kicking her out when she's pregnant, vulnerable, and in need of stability and love going to help? Yeah, not great parenting, I would say. Edit. Getting a few responses saying, OP set his rules and his daughter made her bed. Now she has to live with the consequences. Setting rules is one thing. Kicking out your daughter when she is most desperate is going to be the jerk choice 99.9% of the time. OP is choosing his rules over supporting his daughter. Not the jerk. If she expects for you to shoulder the expense and take on childcare duties you didn't agree to, you've put her in a very difficult position, and I can see why a lot of people think you are the jerk, but I would have done the same. Although, I would have had a serious conversation first about what I am willing and unwilling to do. Set very firm rules and boundaries as to my involvement and financial help, which she has to accept if she wants to return. If she chooses to keep the baby and I'm financially able, I would help in initially setting her up outside of my home, as I have no interest in raising another baby in my 40s. But I'm not going to financially support her forever. That being said, I would not leave her with completely no options, no support, and no help. If you let her come back with her choosing to keep the baby, know that there will be responsibilities expected from you that will fall on you and your wife, considering she's only 19. Is she working? How will she support herself? Is she going to pursue getting child support from the father? Either way, it's a difficult decision to make. Best of luck to you and your daughter. Not the jerk. If you let her stay, you and your wife will be the ones raising that baby while she runs around getting into more trouble and having more kids. She'll know that she can count on mom and dad to keep providing while she keeps doing her thing. I'm disgusted by all the people here telling you you're in the wrong. The good thing is they will be in the same position in about 30 years. Then they will get to be the 41-year-old grandparents raising babies. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for kicking his daughter out or not? Please let us know. Support the channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.